The wind rolled across the plains like a sigh from the heavens, carrying dust, tumbleweed, and the faint scent of rain that never came. Out there, under a bleeding sunset, she walked, her boots half torn, her dress ripped at the seams, and her pride hanging by a thread thinner than spider silk. Her name was Clara Mae Dawson, though most folks had stopped calling her by name long before she left town. "They abandoned me for my body," she muttered, voice scratchy as sandpaper, talking to the open air. "But I'll be damned if I let that be the end of me." Somewhere ahead lay a speck of a ranch, just a sliver of life on a land too big for most souls to handle. That ranch belonged to Eli Grant, a man known by locals as the Lone Rancher. He kept to himself, rarely rode into town, and when he did, folks said his eyes looked like the prairie sky right before a storm. Quiet, but dangerous if you didn't respect it. Clara stumbled toward that light. Dash, dash, dash. By the time she reached the gate, night had come down thick and heavy. Coyotes yipped far off in the hills, and the moon looked like a chipped coin hanging in the sky. Eli heard the faint creak of the gate before he saw her. He stepped out on his porch, lantern in hand, a rifle leaned casual against the doorframe. "You lost, miss?" he asked, his voice low, calm, the kind of tone that could either mean welcome or warning, depending on the listener. Clara hesitated. "Lost, maybe, but I ain't looking to cause no harm." He looked her over, dirt streaked across her face, the tremble in her hands trying to stay hidden. "You look half-starved." "I am," she admitted, her pride already scraped raw. "Haven't eaten since sunup yesterday. I'll work for it if I have to. Just need a place to rest my feet a spell." He nodded slow. "Got a spare cot in the barn. Feeds for the horses, but there's stew inside if you're man enough to share a table." Her lips twitched, half a smile, half disbelief. "You calling me manly, mister?" He smirked just a little. "Just saying I don't set much store by what's proper. You hungry or not?" She was. Dash, dash, dash. The ranch house was plain, wood darkened by years of dust storms and silence. Inside, the air smelled of tobacco, leather, and faint traces of coffee. Eli ladled stew into a bowl and set it before her. For a while, neither spoke. She ate slow, cautious, as though the warmth might vanish if she got too greedy. When she finally set the spoon down, her eyes had softened some. "You don't ask a lot of questions, do ya?" she said, "only when the answers matter." She tilted her head, curious. "And mine don't." He shrugged. "Maybe they do. Maybe you just ain't ready to tell him yet." Her throat tightened. For the first time in days, someone hadn't looked at her like a problem. "They ran me out," she said finally. "Men I thought were friends. Town said I was, tempting trouble." She laughed, bitter. "Wasn't my fault the sheriff's boy couldn't keep his hands to himself." Eli's jaw flexed. "Townfolk can be cruel when they're scared of their own reflection." "That they can," she said, eyes cast down. "All I ever wanted was a little respect. Guess that's too much for a woman out here." Eli leaned back in his chair, the wood creaking beneath him. "Respect ain't given in these parts, miss. It's earned, same as land and sleep. But once you earn it, no man can take it from ya." Her gaze flicked to his hands, rough, scarred, but steady. "You talk like a preacher. More like a man who's made his peace with being alone." She smiled faintly. "That's no peace at all." Dash, dash, dash. Days passed into weeks. Clara took to the ranch like she'd been born there. She mended fences, milked the cow, even learned to ride the old bay gelding that had once belonged to Eli's late brother. Eli didn't say much, but he watched her, and something unspoken started to stir between them, something deeper than gratitude. One evening, as the sky burned orange over the hills, she found him sitting by the corral, whittling a piece of cedar. "You ever been married, Eli?" she asked. He paused mid-cut. "Once, long time ago." "What happened?" "She died." "Oh," she swallowed. "Sorry to hear that." He nodded. "Ain't your fault. The fever came through. Took her and half the herd with it. Since then, I figure the land's the only thing that don't leave you." She watched him, eyes soft. "Maybe you just been looking in the wrong places." He gave a quiet chuckle. "Maybe." Dash, dash, dash. That night, a storm rolled in from the north, the kind that split the sky and turned the earth to rivers. Clara woke to the sound of thunder and a panicked whinny from the barn. She threw on her coat and ran out into the rain. One of the younger horses had busted loose, spooked by the lightning. Easy, boy, she shouted, grabbing the rope, her dress soaked through. The horse reared, nearly knocking her flat. Then Eli was there, coat flapping, hat low against the rain. Together they wrangled the horse back in, both breathing hard, faces inches apart under the dim light. Damn fool thing nearly trampled you, he muttered. I can handle myself. He smiled, rain trickling down his jaw. That much is clear. They stood there a moment, neither moving, the storm all around them. Then, quietly, he said, you could stay, you know. Ain't much here, but it's honest. She searched his face, the lines carved deep by sun and sorrow, the steadiness in his eyes. Wouldn't want to be a burden, she said. You already ain't, dash dash dash. Come spring, the prairie bloomed again, and so did Clara. Folks from town began to whisper how the woman they cast out was now running cattle beside the most respected rancher in 3 counties. One afternoon, a familiar rider came down the road, the sheriff's boy, his smirk just as smug as she remembered. Well, I'll be damned, he drawled, eyeing Clara like a piece of meat. Didn't figure you'd last long out here. Guess the rancher's got a soft spot for strays. Eli stepped off the porch, quiet but firm. Best you turn that horse around, son. The boy laughed. What's it to you? Ain't against the law to pay a visit. It's against my patience, Eli said, hand resting near his holster. The boy's grin faded. You threatening me? No, Eli said, voice low as thunder. Just telling you how things are. Clara's heart thudded. For the first time, she didn't feel small or shamed. She felt protected. Not like a damsel, but like someone who mattered. The boy spat in the dirt and turned his horse around. You'll regret talking her in, he called over his shoulder. Eli watched him go, doubtful, dash dash dash. That night, by lantern light, Clara found Eli on the porch again, looking out over the dark horizon. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. He didn't look at her. Yes, I did. She stepped closer. Why? Because I don't like bullies. And because, he hesitated, then sighed. Because you belong here, Clara. Whether you see it yet or not. Her eyes burned with tears she didn't expect. You don't know what that means to me. Maybe I do, he said. World's cruel enough without folks making it harder. You've earned your peace. She placed a hand on his arm, rough against rough. And what about you, Eli Grant? When do you get yours? He smiled faintly, eyes on the stars. Maybe I already found it. Dash dash dash. Summer came. The ranch thrived. They worked side by side through long days and longer nights, and though no words were ever spoken about love, it was there, in the shared glances, the quiet meals, the way he'd hand her his hat when the sun got too hot. Sometimes, when the wind blew just right, she'd whisper to herself, they abandoned me for my body. Then she'd look out across the fields, where Eli was riding, and add, but he saw something else. Not pity, not desire, just respect. And in that wild, endless stretch of land, under skies too wide to hold a grudge, Clara Mae Dawson finally found what no town or man had ever given her. A home, a purpose, and a love that didn't ask her to bow her head. The lone rancher never spoke much about feelings, but when he looked at her, you could tell he'd been waiting all those quiet years for someone who could ride beside him, not behind. So when the sun rose over Grant Ranch, and the day called them to work again, they rode out together, side by side, 2 souls who'd found peace where the world had given them none. And the wind carried her words across the plains, soft but strong. They abandoned me for my body, but he took me in for my soul.